I could very much sit here and talk about all the specs of the Pocket 4P versus the Pocket 4 and vice versa, etc, etc. But what I think I'd rather do is use them as I would probably intend them to. So the Pocket 4 is aimed mostly, I would say, at like consumer level people that want to go and travel around, but take something that they can capture their life on. And I actually think it's very capable of doing that. We're going to do a little bit on the Pocket 4 first, and then throughout the video I'm going to swap and change between the two, and then you can make up your own mind which one might be best suited for you. So what I'm also going to do is, it is technically a hybrid system. You can take photos on these cameras, and that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to be taking photos on each of Pocket 4P and the Pocket 4 as we wander around London, and then later on we'll do some bits at night so you can see the footage at night and see if we can take some photos at night. I think that might be a little bit difficult. So in photo mode, I am going to be in super photo 1x1, which works out at a 37 megapixel photo. And I'm going to get some shots around Piccadilly, and then we're going to go and wander around the street. Okay, let's see if we can get this taxi. Like so. This is actually one of my favorite streets in London. Looking down this way, you can see the archway down the bottom, which is quite nice. It's a bit crowded at the moment because of traffic, but I think we'll get an idea of the shot. I'm going to show you what I do on the camera when I'm taking the shot. So we've got the camera all lined up. This is the photo we're taking, and all I'm doing is I'm pressing the button there, the record button. You can either swipe right to access, exposure, white balance, format. I'm shooting in RAW because I'm editing them with my presets. There's a link to those below. And then if we go right, we can see the images we've taken. And if we go up, we can change the mode. Now that's the same for video as well. So on the 3x lens, at that 60mm equivalent, it does look really nice as a shot. I've got some of the flowers here as foreground, and it just makes the image look a little bit nicer. If I take the shot at 1x, which would be what we can shoot on the Pocket 4, it's not a bad image, but the thing is it's wide, so you don't get that compressed shot. You don't get that same feeling in the image as you do at 3x. So that's maybe something to consider if you do want to take any photos on either the Pocket 4 or the Pocket 4P, because it is obviously a difference. Even though these are both 1-inch sensors on the Pocket 4 and the Pocket 4P, I want to do a direct comparison. Now, I'm walking into the sun now, and then I'm going to go back into the shade. That's actually super bright. And then I'll go back into the shade. We're both at 0.3 of an exposure compensation, so plus 0.3, 4K 30. Essentially, they should be the same, but looking in the back of the camera, they look different. So I'm going to actually put these clips below. There'll be a couple of clips below, not all of the clips from this video, but some clips below, so you can have a look at the difference yourself. They're both D-Log. I'm not using the D-Log 2 on the Pocket 4P, so I'm not entirely sure why they look different, but they do look different. Skin tone, the Pocket 4 looks a little bit warmer in the back of the screen, even though they're all on the same settings, so a bit strange. While I'm just walking to the next spot, there is a difference between internal memory on these two cameras. The Pocket 4 has 107 gigabytes of internal memory, and the Pocket 4P has 103 gigabytes. Not sure where the 4 gigabytes went, but there's a 4 gigabyte difference. If we go to the 3x lens here, you can see this space here. At 1x, it's actually not bad, but at 3x, if we punch in, that then becomes way more compressed, and it's such a nicer frame versus the 1x at wide. You can see on the screen the difference between taking a photo at 3x and taking a photo at 1x, and you can agree it makes a difference, right? So having that possibility is something that I would choose to have as a photographer, creator, filmmaker. I would choose to have that because it's an option. I would choose to have this versus the Pocket 4. Gonna get nice and low to the floor, get a bit of a reflection going on, and get somebody walking through the frame. And essentially, I'm getting the camera as low to the floor as I can. I'm waiting for somebody to walk through the frame. We've got this lovely reflection, and I'm using the 3x lens. Yeah, sick. Really nice, like that. One of the other things you get with the Pocket 4 is you actually get a diopter. Now, a diopter is a little thing that can go in front of the lens and make it a little bit wider, so you can get that for these. I'm not entirely sure if they are going to bring that out for the Pocket 4P. maybe that might be an option. But as it stands, I know that definitely I've got one for the Pocket 4, and it was the same for the Pocket 3. So it just literally goes on the front of the lens, and that allows you to have a wider image. Not by much, but it is a little bit extra if you want to do some vlogging, and it's literally all controlled by a magnet. I don't have it on at the moment, I just have the standard on because I wanted to make it a fair comparison. On the Pocket 4P we have D-Log 2, which is the new D-Log from DJI, and it gives us a little bit more dynamic range. Now with the Pocket 4 you have D-Log, which is 10-bit, still 10-bit, but with the D-Log 2 there's just a few different changes that gives a little bit more extra dynamic range, and personally I prefer the D-Log 2 with the Pocket 4P. You can of course use a mirrorless or a small mirrorless if you want to, or you can go and use this. Look at that quality. It's insane. I can't believe that this is where we're at when it comes to cameras, and I can't wait to show you how capable this is at nighttime. We've seen how the camera performs during the daytime. We're going to transition into nighttime to see how the 1-inch sensor performs during the night. Now with a 1-inch sensor in such a small compact camera, I'm not going to be like crazy optimistic, but I am quite excited to see how they turn out. We're at 100th of a second, ISO 1000, what are we on, 1600. I'm just waiting for something to go through the frame. Yeah, it kind of works. Kind of does work. You can get panning photos on the Osmo Pocket 4P. I'm gonna wait for a bus to get a nice long exposure shot, but I'm gonna have to kind of like press against this lamppost. Actually, no, I won't. I'll go in front of this because we're quite wide. We can go about here and then wait for a bus. We've got a bus coming from this side, which is exactly what I want, because they'll go, basically the bus will go through this frame and it'll create a nice motion blur in front of the view. So we're just gonna wait for this to go through the frame. Here it goes through now. You can see it going through, pressing the shutter now, and then you can see that shot on the screen. And that is shot with the Pocket 4. So being able to get those types of shots with, I say, a nice hybrid system is really, really impressive. Not only because obviously you can get these shots with other things, but it's the fact that this camera packs a massive punch in regards to video, not just photo. The photo is the extra bit. The fact that you can get amazing photo and video on this Pocket 4, just as a normal consumer going out in the city getting these shots, is insane. So you can see this crane up here. I just want to show you the lossless zoom. If I zoom in from 1 times all the way to 12 times, you can see the guy going down the ladder, which you can see on the screen. There is a tiny little jump between the two lenses, but it's really negligible. It's actually crazy how seamless this is, and how the quality retains even at 12 times, which is nuts. That's actually ridiculous. Like how good that quality is. Context, I'm sat down here. The crane is up here, so being able to zoom from this all the way into 12 times is pretty insane. My conclusion on the Pocket 4P and the Pocket 4 is, I think the Pocket 4P is the one that I would choose to go for, even if I was a consumer. I was just talking to a gentleman in the DJI Hasselblad store here on Piccadilly, and he's going to Disneyland next week. And being that the combo, the full creator combo, is only £50 more for this, it makes sense. If you're looking at spending that much money on a everyday camera that you can use for vlogging, photos, etc., it's hard to come up with a reason why you'd go for the Pocket 4. There is a slight size comparison where the Pocket 4 is arguably a little bit more pocketable, but in my opinion, they're the same. The real estate that it takes up in your pocket or a bag is the same, so therefore it feels like the Pocket 4P makes more sense. Yes, you do get 4 whole gigabyte less of memory, but you end up having more versatility when you're out shooting. When it comes to photo and video, time lapses, etc. You also have the ability to use D-Log 2 when you're shooting in the 1 times on the 1-inch sensor. Now, of course, the Pocket 4 has a 1-inch sensor as well, but this 1-inch sensor gives you D-Log 2. Maybe in the future what they'll do is they'll do an update where D-Log 2 comes to the Pocket 4. I don't know. But as it stands, this definitely seems to take the win. The Pocket 4P is an incredible camera, and being that it is, in my opinion, affordable for what you get, I think we're at that point now where this could very easily replace a mirrorless camera. And for me, it's going to. My daily, everyday camera here on YouTube is going to be replaced with this. Why? Because it's so much easier to carry around, to charge, to work with, and there's no need for me to lug around a big expensive camera all day when I can just use this. What are your thoughts? Down in the comments. And with all that being said, create more, stress less, and I'll see you in the next one.